Chapter 15 Story of a Certain Wicked Man. When the dispensing pharmacy guild master, Pierre, had reached the possibility of pest victims, the sixth quarantine station, which was set up in front of the sixth wall gates, was blown away by divine arts. Enemy attack. Close the gates. The gate guard shouted. The gates closed and the drawbridge was about to be raised but failed. Even though portcullis was dropped, the water attributed Holy Night created a boulder-size ice block blocking the shutters, and entered through the gates by sliding. Although the 5 Holy Knights were infected by the Black Plague, it seems like they have considerable skills. The armored knights that tried to block they were blown away by wind arts, crashing into the walls to their deaths. The amount of their divine powers and proficiency as a unit could be distinguished as royal guards of the kingdom. These guys. They're strong. The imperial capital's guardsmen held their gun. Saint-Flouv's holy knights pulled out their staff, and cast their divine techniques with each of their attributes according to command. Ready. First squad fire. Although the musket squad fires from above the gate, an ice wall was created and could not hit them. Second squad fire. Actually, bullets and shells cannot pierce even through normal ice, so the thin ice created by an advanced divine arts user has enough defense. Damn it. A high-tier water attribute her. 3 of Netale Kingdom's holy knights have finally brought in a covered cage within the castle gates. And when they opened the cages, a horde of small white critters was released to the imperial capital. Half of them have died unable to endure the Black Plague, but those who had survived has scattered in the capital's market very quickly. The squirrel, it flew. People screamed because of the unexpected movements of the squirrel. Some of them climbed up the gutter, and flew away, jumping from roof to roof. The Netale Kingdom's merchants said that they were white squirrels, but they flying squirrels. Flying squirrels are also rodents. The first item to be sold in Saint-Flouv's market is fabric. When the fleas of the flying squirrel infected by the pest enter them, it quickly becomes a medium of infection. This is bad. Emergency. Close the second gates. The imperial capital is a vast fortified city. And although it is not as clearly separated as it was with a castle town, the administrative area where emperors, nobles, and military personnel live is clearly divided from the common area where commoners live. There are nobles who has their dwellings in the suburbs, but the military personnel lives in the imperial capital's administrative area. From the standpoint of defense, the alleys are purposely created in an echelon shape so that every place could be observed. Even if the first gates in the outer layer were broken through, the second gates would block the enemy's path. The second gates leading to the court and administrative were immediately shut down. Enter your houses and close the doors. Don't let the infected squirrels go inside. Signal fireworks that are used to announce enemy attack were launched to the sky from the towers in the sixth gate. And the court of Saint-Flouf Empire and the imperial capital and army was informed immediately. The watchmen of bell towers in various parts of the imperial capital began to ring the alarm bell loudly. As soon as the alarm bell rang, all of the stores within the imperial capital closed their doors, and people started to hide inside the stores. It was arranged that passerby and beggars would also hide inside the stores. The people moved quickly to evacuate. Damn it! Guild Master Pierre, who crawled out under the destroyed quarantine station tent, opened the medicine box that he had kept very carefully although he was full of wounds. It's now the time to open the divided special medicine. Sparfloxacin has come. Falma had said. No matter what color their blood is or what their status is, even if they are prisoners, give all of the patients that are still alive equally. If even one of them were not treated, or if those infected were allowed to move freely, they would become mediums and scatter the Black Plague. All of you. Everyone. First. Drink the medicine. Pierre shouted at all of those in his surroundings. He gave all of them medicine, the gate guard, the crowd, the merchants. He soaks a brush in the ink pot in his toolbox, and marked everyone's cheeks with ink. It is an unerasable ink that was supplied by Falma, and would identify those who are infected. And all of those who are marked must be taken to the quarantine zone. Make a wall of ice using divine arts here. It's a defense so that it would not spread more than this. Pierre gave commands to the divine arts user, and creates isolation measures according to the manual. He fixed the defensive line that was destroyed once again. Rather than the enemy attack, the infiltration of the Black Plague is the one that must be stopped. It is an enemy far more frightening than a human enemy. According to what Falma expects, if even one of the people in the imperial capital were infected, 60% of those who were in the imperial capital would die. Don't get beaten by something like the Black Plague. We will survive. That was the shout of Pierre's soul. Most of the rats and fleas that would become a medium of the pest within the imperial capital were exterminated. The people have also started to be hygienic. That is why the interior of the imperial capital is the cleanest in the world if it is compared to other cities. The residents washes their hands, gargles, and masks were also distributed. The Black Plague would not spread so easily. The spread of infection must not be allowed. But even so, it is a terrible epidemic. We're now in the critical point. Hurry up and do the countermeasures. Pierre used the medicine unsparingly, and medicine for 91 people was consumed in the 6th quarantine station. The medicine would not be enough, stopped at the minimum. Pierre did not forget to drink the medicine himself, and wore a gas mask like equipment. The porters of the Netale kingdom that were left behind outside the castle gates took advantage of the confusion. They threw away their luggage, and tries to escape to where they came from. Stop right there. However, the temple's first chasing unit that had departed from Esthark has caught up and stopped them in their tracks. The merchants whose escape route were blocked by horses makes frightened expressions. Save me. Surrender, you damn smugglers. Surrender and I shall give you your life. However, if you would not, we shall kill you without mercy. The priest's voice was firm and determined. The merchants who were terrified and kneels to the ground were captured. But a few merchants who have lost their reason due to being infected by the Black Plague raises their voices and swings their knives, only to be killed by the priests. The doctrine of the temple is to condemn sinners but save those who repent. All of them have a high fever. So the merchants who surrendered were given medicine and immediately isolated by the priests, and the luggage that they had were burned together with the corpses of the merchants who had resisted. Move. Open the way. The holy knights of the Empire's land army and the imperial guards directly under the Empress had arrived. Eager to take down Netale Kingdom's holy knights that had invaded through the castle gates. They launched a preemptive attack while riding horses towards Netale Kingdom's holy knights. Scorching combustion, and for de brûlure. The fiery red flames attacked the elites of Netale Kingdom, and their surroundings were covered with fire pillars. The flames of the divine arts entangled the attack target. Wind barrier van wind. Negating that with a wind divine technique, the invaders delivers a counterattack. Both sides fought with death just by their side without stepping back. The Empire's Order of Knights also gave their all, shooting great divine techniques without thinking of the damages inside the city. With the Empire's pride on the line, they must take down Netale Kingdom's holy knights. However, being cornered, surrounded by the Empire's army at all sides, Netale Kingdom's holy knights had prepared for their death, and tries their last resistance. And raging windstorm, Storm Van Wota. Netale Kingdom's holy knights released all of the flying squirrels in the cages. And all of the wind attributed holy knights release as a wind great divine art towards the remaining carcass. The rotting carcass of the flying squirrels flew far up in the sky. A blast of wind with the pest bacteria blows through the imperial capital. The blast of wind broke the doors and windows of the houses, and the wind entered the house. A merchant company collapses to the ground. It looks like they planned on fanning a blast of wind, infecting the whole imperial capital with the pest. Cleansing wind vent de la purge. Purification of the land, purification de la terra. The Order of Knights from the temple area of San Fluive imperial capital who were late had counterattacked. With wind attributed and earth attributed purification divine arts with head priest Solomon's command. The wind full of divine powers bellows, creating a whirlwind. The imperial capital's alley, spanning several tens of meters, became a purified land that wards off epidemic. Thou shalt not use the art of the gods. Thou shalt be deprived of your divine pulse. They were convicted by head priest Solomon's dauntless voice. The privilege of the temple. That is, the privilege that presides over the opening and closing of the divine pulse of divine arts users. It is a secret technique only to be passed to the head priests of the parish. And although the divine pulse cannot be closed if they do not know the target's name, it is possible to one-sidedly disable a target's divine arts with a simplified method. Divine arts users whose divine pulse were closed will become ordinary commoners. Oh, the armed priest forms a formation, and encloses the holy knights. The head priest started the long chants for severing the divine pulse. And seeing that, Netherale Kingdom's holy knights attacks the head priest. But in return, the temple's elite troops and the Empire's order of knights covered the head priest's incantation. Imprisoning flames. Prison de la Flamme. The Empire's Imperial Guard's high-tier flame divine arts user activated a great divine technique and surrounded Netherale Kingdom's holy knights with a wall of flames. Drought of the Holy Spring. Fermez le Puits Sacre. Head priest Solomon's secret technique was completed. The ring of light that was shot from the staff attacks the invaders and were absorbed into their body, and countless ice arrows pouring down to them as if to follow it. The invaders that lost their divine arts could not defend, and were pierced through. One of the holy knight who advanced the Black Plague the most tragically fell down to the ground, and took his last breath. The flames created by the firewalls devoured the corpses, burning them, not leaving a bone intact. Your Majesty. The 6th quarantine station was broken through. The Holy Knights of Netherale Kingdom has attacked. How many are they? The Empress asked excitedly. Hearing that there was an enemy attack, it seems as if she was enjoying. There are 5 of them. One Holy Knight is equal to about 100 of common soldiers. However, the Empress was disappointed. It is not a huge commotion that the warning bells are needed to be rung. However, the warning bell rung for a very long time. The Empress, who got impatient by that, was, "Let me see, shall I go to crush them directly?" When she pleasantly smiled like that, she raised her hips from the throne. "Why, Your Majesty? That is, what, I shall not kill them, I will let them off with half their life. If Elizabeth, who is the continent's strongest flame arts user, comes out, it would be finished in an instant." The aides and ministers did not doubt that. The Empress, hearing that there was an enemy attack, rather than being afraid, she has a bloodthirsty personality that she would want to personally clean them up herself. However, please wait, Your Majesty. Bruno stopped the Empress. It is very dangerous if the Empress, Your Majesty, would go to the front lines. To think that someone would worry about me that much. Am I not being belittled? It looks like the Empress got her fighting spirit burning instead with Bruno's words. The divine key around her sparked, and the layer of divine powers looked like a mirage. Marseille Black Plague. It must have entered the imperial capital. What did you say? The mortality of the Black Plague is especially high, and it is being called as the king of epidemics. How many casualties will there be? The Empress thought and got pale. Even the strongest Empress does not have a way to defend against pathogens. She herself almost died because of tuberculosis. Netherale Kingdom's intentions are unknown. Please just stay at the palace. The Secretary of National Affairs Philip also followed what Bruno has said. I ask Her Majesty to take the preventive medicine for the Black Plague. If the Empress became infected by the Black Plague, the nation could not stand. Bruno prescribed the medicine that Falme has given him to the main ministers. The ministers who trust Bruno and Falme drank that without hesitations. Even so, why does Netherale attack our imperial capital? After the Empress had drunk the medicine, she closed and opened her fan with annoyance. It has been a long time since the country of Netherale became the vassal state of Saint-Louis Empire. And it is bounded to the Empire with an alliance as a protectorate. It is not an enemy country. The previous king's demise was just recent, and Netherale Kingdom's current ruler is 4 years old. Even if the regentates of the young king started a rebellion, conspiracies, or power fighting, and resulted to rebelling against the Empire, they would not send 5 soldiers for a surprise attack. If that is so, who is the mastermind? They understand the nature of the Black Plague very well. It would not be designed by uncultured people. They would either be alchemists, doctors, pharmacists, or scholars. Do you have one in mind? Yes. Bruno dug up from his memory of the past. 3 years ago, he had heard that the Netale Kingdom has welcomed an excellent commoner pharmacist. He did not know the name of that pharmacist, but the characteristics of the pharmacist in the way of his treatment were exactly the same with a certain wicked person. That was a pharmacist who claimed the title of the Norwitz Medicine University's genius, and gained fame by establishing numerous way of treatments just like Bruno. However, he was particularly lacking humanity and morality, and repeated numerous brutal human experimentations. Before he was chased away, he received a huge sum of money from a certain great noble from the Netale Kingdom, and experimented with a poison that would efficiently kill a huge number of humans. And it is being said that the poison substances that he developed were used to assassinate numerous heads of states. He would do whatever it is for the sake of his experiments. He even used a huge number of prisoners of war in his experiments. He was so wicked that the temple severed his divine pulse and was dropped down to a commoner. That was the story of a scholar in the past. Bruno was one of those who uncovered his crimes and helped to banish him. It might have a connection with the demise of the previous king as well. That is why it is not very strange that that person who has experimented for strong poison substances would destroy a country using a poison that would magnify by infecting people. Or in other words, an epidemic. Infectious diseases are caused by bacteria. It would infect animals to animals, it would infect humans to humans. It is a pathogen, and how to use that pathogen. Each of those, although it might only be a portion, he might know what's ahead better than Falma. And the microscope must have given the confirmation to his hypothesis. Did he see it, the bacterium that stirs within the moribund or in the body fluids of the dead? Did he observe that with a creepy and ruthless smile? Medicis, can you still not understand the beautiful truth of this world? Bruno would never forget the words he heard from him the day that his divine pulse was severed. Branded by the mark of never being able to use divine arts, and banished as a commoner. Even if they were healed and healed, humans die. However, even if they die, humans will regenerate. The wicked pharmacist's name, it was called Camus. If the knowledge Falma disseminated with a good will. The letters sent by Bruno across the borders returns dyed with the color of evil intents. The world shall not get destroyed so easily. An evil spirit possesses Camus. Bruno thinks so. That man, we should have killed him. Bruno regretted not crushing him at that time. The Netale Kingdom and its citizen, what happened to them? The Empress asked Bruno a very simple question. I believe that they might be under catastrophic situation. Bruno answered. The Netale Kingdom must have also been attacked by surprise, or in the middle of a coup d'etat. He kills humans very easily and simply. And he would be amused that they would simply increase in numbers again. I see. This time for sure. The Empress stood up. Short words, even that voice of hers, were releasing the solemnity of an emperor. Send a campaign to the country of Netale. Dispatch scouts. And while that happens, we need to do something about the imperial capital, the Empress said, called Noah, and carried the crimson imperial staff. Cedric-san, what should we do? The sound of the bells. This is for the first time. Lot doubled the mask she was wearing, and looked towards the direction where the fire was raised together with the other pharmacists in the triumphal arch in the first quarantine station. The way the bells are sounded, there must have been an enemy attack. Their numbers are, there are not that many. There are only 10, more or less. Cedric was able to grasp the number of enemies and the forces that intercepted them in the destruction of the city from how the bells were being rung. But they are divine arts users. They are well trained. He grinds his teeth, thinking that, if this body were not of age, I would have able to run and help. Honestly speaking, Cedric would not be of any help even if he went there. He knows the difference between their skills as well. Does everyone there needs medicine? Would there be people who are injured? The flashy battle with divine arts that occurred inside the city made the commoners' area suffer great casualties. The roofs of the wooden houses were blown away, some were crushed, and a fire broke out. And it even seemed that the screams and shouts of the commoners and merchants could be heard riding the wind. There is the Different World Pharmacy near the 6th quarantine station. There are many of Falmasama's dangerous medicine there. There are also ones that would cause explosions. Lot seemed to be very nervous and worried. I want to go to see if the Different World Pharmacy is not burning, Lot desperately begged to Cedric. No, you shall not. No one must approach them when a fight between divine arts users occurs. You will become a hindrance. Commoners would only be an impediment, they would only be a meat wall or taken as a hostage by the enemy. But when Falmasama returns, I think that he would be very sad seeing the pharmacy burning. Lot's eyes were full of tears. It would be when anything happens to you that Falmasama would be very sad. Lot could not say anything back. And all that she could do was to look up to the sky where the sparks spread, feeling frustrated. She thought that right now under the same sky, Falma and Ellen were fighting to save lives in Marseille. Ari. Lot suddenly pointed to the sky. A flying object rushed from the sky far away at tremendous speed, and made a sudden stop above the sky of the imperial capital. A bird? No, it looks like a human. Who is it? Hearing Lot's words, Cedric dropped his jaws. Falma returned to the sky of the imperial capital, and landed on the highest spire of the Guardian Temple in the imperial capital. The bells were ringing with deafening sounds all throughout the imperial capital. He thought that he would have a headache. Don't tell me, it's already? He returned at full speed, even reducing his mental power to its limits. Even so, did it already break through? The pest did it enter the imperial capital? The place around the imperial capital's 6th gates was noisy. It is the direction where the main road connects the Esthark village to the imperial capital, and it is the direction where the Different World Pharmacy is. He looked at the whole imperial capital with diagnosis eye from the sky. Doing that, he saw that a chunk of light-emitting bodies that glowed with the color blue had concentrated around the 6th gates. There are also many small light-emitting bodies that were moving at decent speed and unpredictable movements. Falma kicked away from the spire, flew with the medicine god's staff towards the 6th gates. When he got close, he noticed that that which was jumping from roof to roof of the imperial capital was flashing with a bluish-white color. It isn't a squirrel. It's some kind of a new species of flying squirrels. Falma received a shock. It was a rodent after all. And because the flying squirrel could fly, it is worse, Falma thought. Is the Netale Kingdom knows that the pests infect through the rodents and their ticks. The flying squirrel that was brought was infected by the Black Plague, and become carcasses inside the cage. There must be airborne infections occurring at present progressive form. Most probably, the main infection route is through airborne infection. The airborne infection is the most vicious infection route of the pest, and it would cause a pneumonic plague with 100% mortality rate. It started. The flying squirrels that were released in the imperial capital were being hunted and exterminated by the divine arts of the divine arts users and the archer squad. The disposal team wearing masks and gloves gathered the carcasses in one place, and incinerated them. However, 1, 2, 3, 4. The blue light shines down on the people of the imperial capital, and it spreads out. The light that shines the people who got infected was like a sea of fireflies. With just a quick glance, the number of infected has reached a few thousands. A disease that when one get infected, one would surely die. If it would not be taken care of here, sooner or later, the Black Plague would quickly cover the whole continent. Millions shall die, just like how it went in the history of Earth. However, that light, it's still blue. The blue light is a disease that Falma could heal. If not, he would be seeing a red light. This means that this is a disease where Falma's hands could reach. It looked like a trial for Falma, passed down from the heavens. I'll heal it. As far as my powers reach. Exceeding the universe and the world, he reincarnated, and received inhuman abilities. It is an ability to save the people in this other world that do not have a way to fight. If I won't use it now, then when? Even if I used all of my divine powers and lose my life, the price of receiving my second death is enough if many people would be saved. With those thoughts in his heart, feeling the thing that make all of his hair stand, he grasped the staff, and waved it hugely once, spreading the holy field throughout the entire imperial capital. Using the amount of divine powers that were unheard until now. Disease Destruction Sanctuary. It covered up to the horizons. With this, the airborne infection would be avoided. The speed of the blue lights encroaching have decreased, and finally stopped increasing. However, the light from the people who were once infected did not disappear. I knew this. Decontamination. Next to that is the source of infection, then the treatment of the infected. Decontamination must be done all over the city. The first thing that he came up with is the aerial spraying of disinfectants. If there were no people, it would be fine. However, there are people below, and is the concern about the harm to the human body. I see. Most of all, there was something that exhibits a very strong disinfection effects. It is the creation of water using divine arts. The water created by divine arts users using divine arts does not easily decay, but the water created by Falma completely stopped decaying. Not only it would stop the germs to reproduce, but it would also be killed. He knew about that because of the bacteria test that he did when the water server in the pharmacy was installed. When he thought that the customers would have diarrhea when even the beneficial intestinal bacteria were also killed, they did not. The disinfection effects might not be working against the beneficial bacteria. Though, it was not as if he had confirmed it. If it's the water created with the medicine god's staff, Falma swung the medicine god's staff, and held it up to the heavens. He called out powers coming from another world, creating a huge amount of water, and launched it into the atmosphere like a mist. The mass of steam that was cooled at high altitude creates water droplets, gathers rapidly, turned to raindrops, and became a downpour that poured onto the ground. The old texts that were passed down in the temple were very difficult that the head priest was not able to translate. And Falma does not know as well, but it is a hidden technique called white purification rain that was unique to the medicine god's staff. Those who are alive, those who are dead, those who are young, those who are old, humans, animals, plants, all of them were showered by the rain of purification. The people looked up to the sky, narrowing their eyes. The white human-shaped light-emitting body illuminates the sky above the imperial capital. The divine technique that Falma released became a beneficial rain outside. The fire that broke out from the houses quickly dispersed. Inside the houses, it became a mist. Those water droplets enclosed the pest bacteria, killing it, and the air throughout the imperial capital was purified. Falma glared towards the sixth gate with a strong gaze. Next is the eradication of the source of infection.